A bit of a fire is currently raging in the indie games development sphere, as one of the big popular pre-made engines for video game development, Unity, has elected to pull a Photoshop and alter the terms of their long-standing agreement with their customers, unilaterally, without seeking any sort of feedback whatsoever. And can you guess what part of the agreement they elected to change? Pricing, of course, with an additional fee. For you see, certain select games, those created by successful developers and big titles, will now be charged a fee every time anyone installs the video game. And that is a repeat fee, by the way, every time the individual downloads and installs it. So if you have a game and you download it, you install it, then you uninstall it and install it again, that's 2 charges right there. I'm sure the more astute amongst you can already see some windows for abuse here, and we will get into that. But first, allow me a brief little side rant here, because god damn it, is this not the problem as well? See, I don't mean to laugh, because this, of course, is obviously going to suck for a lot of independent developers. Unity and tools like it are excellent things for gaming because it allows people who may not have the time, the money, or the technical expertise to build their own engine to create the video games of their dreams relatively easily whilst paying a monthly fee for it. It's a pretty good idea, but the issue is, of course, that with all of services like this, as I mentioned Photoshop, which become always online, perpetual rented services, is that you don't actually own the software. You don't own the part of the software you are using in your particular game. You don't own the tools themselves. You are always paying for them. They are an unending license that you must maintain. And that in and of itself isn't necessarily the problem, because, buying the entire engine at full price would probably be impossible to do, so the renting system makes sense. But it also means that you tie yourself to the parent company, who can, through their various, contracts, etc., legal requirements for even being allowed to use the engine in the first place, change the rules of engagement at the snap of a finger. And you have very little, if any, recourse in the matter whatsoever. Hell, Photoshop used to be a product that you simply just bought, but then they turned all of that into an always online service that requires you to keep paying for it forever. It's an issue. And this will probably be one of the big warning shots, as I guarantee you, if Unity gets away with this, oh, they won't be the only ones for long, let's just put it like that. So, Unity has made the announcement here, and in an attempt to clarify, heavy quotation marks on the clarification part there, as they seem to deliberately be obfuscating as much as they possibly can, frankly, why this is happening and exactly what is, going to happen. So the one-time fee per installation will apply to the big successful games, in Unity's words. They've also tried to find a way to make it relatively free. Unity runtime fee install starts on January 1st, 2024. It is not retroactive or perpetual. Well, it is perpetual, but it isn't a repeating charge. We will charge once for a new installation, not an ongoing perpetual license royalty like revenue share, but they will still require you to pay the fee. We are looking for ways to lessen the impact on developers and provide ways to bring the runtime fee to zero. If you're using any of our ad products, Unity gaming services, or cloud services, etc., please contact us to discuss discounts. So in essence, they're saying that if you're already using other services, we might consider lowering the cost. Either way, they've got you by the short hairs. So these are the changes and some better clarifications. What is the Unity runtime fee? We're introducing a Unity runtime fee that applies to certain Unity subscriptions plans based on pre-game installations across any Unity-supported game platforms. Creators only pay once per download. So that sounds okay. You pay once per install. Well, that's not that bad, is it? Take a game like RimWorld, for example, a famous example of the Unity game engine. It sold well over 1 million copies, right? Okay. If we say that they charge, I believe the maximum was 20 cents, right? 20 cents on 1 million installs is like $200,000. That's a chump of change, no doubt about it. But for a game selling copies at like $30 a piece, it's not the end of the world, sure. But that's not quite what it means. Each time a game is downloaded, Unity's runtime code is also installed. Unity runtime fee goes towards the continued investment in that code to support the billions of devices served every month. each time a game is downloaded. Each time. It sounds like this will happen every time you download and install a game. And if that wasn't the case, surely they would have made it clear. The very fact that there seems to be some confusion here as to whether or not it's every time or not seems to indicate to me that it's every time. And this is in addition to the Unity subscription plan is separate from the Unity runtime fees. A little bit of good old-fashioned double dipping. How is an install defined? An install is defined as an installation and initialization of a project on an end user's device. So again, every time somebody installs the game and then launches it, presumably, or even, initialization, that could also just be the initialization of the code itself. So it registers, there's an install, there you go. Who knows, it's a bit unclear yet again. But this means, okay, let us, for example, imagine that a game runs into a little bit of a PR hiccup, as with the example of RimWorld, yet again. RimWorld announced a piece of DLC quite a while after essentially, finishing up the game. This pissed off a lot of people because it would, of course, in turn, brick all of their mods. And RimWorld's players have a lot of mods. Many of those mods would perhaps never even be updated again because the person who modded that mod, well, he started modding again months or years ago, right? So a lot of people were understandably peeved by this. Now, what do people do when they're angry at a video game developer? Well, uninstall their games is one thing, review bomb it is another. In general, they simply want to be heard, and review bomb is one of the easiest ways to do that. Now imagine a scenario where you know for a fact that you uninstalling the game and then reinstalling it will cost the developer 20 cents. And you have a bone to pick with that developer. Now, of course, you doing this by yourself is going to cost them dollars at best. It's not a big issue. But imagine when, again, one of these big successful games kicks up a real shit show. The ones that produce a few thousand negative reviews over the course of hours. Imagine if those few thousands of people also thought, I don't like this developer. And someone else helpfully made it clear to them that, hey, if you uninstall the game and reinstall it, it'll cost them actual money. Well, if you take those 1,000 people and assume all of them do this, say, 2 or 3 or 4 times, suddenly those dollars start adding up awfully fast, don't they? Oh god, yes they do. Not to mention a whole slew of other problems as well. So this article kind of brings together some of the big concerns. So these are the pricing tiers, 15 cents, oh no, there we go. Standard monthly rate, 20 cent per install, and then 15, 075, 003, 002 for the larger ones and for the various services. So already there's a little bit of, if you go this, you get a better deal, if you go this, it's not as good a deal, etc., etc. And the number of installs you can get before you are essentially, kind of forced up to the next tier, all right? Unity can just start charging us tax per install? Yes, they can, because the agreement you signed with them basically gave them the opportunity to update their terms of service whenever, at any reason, for whatever reason, at any time. They can do this unilaterally, yep. They can charge whatever they want, double, yep. They can add install tracking to our games, of course they can. Otherwise, they couldn't figure out how many times it's been installed, of course. We have to trust their tracking. Yes. Again, I'm sorry. I am, because I get it. All right. For the people making the games, this is a tragedy, and I understand that, but god damn it. This is, again, exactly the problem with systems like this. When you make everything a perpetual fee, and you have no actual rights whatsoever as to what gets put into the continued license agreements, yes, in essence, we are simply trusting in the goodwill and nature of the companies to not bend us over a barrel and rudely roger us up the naughty hole. And hey, I'm a YouTuber. I know all about this. If YouTube decides to just Cheeto me tomorrow, I have no legal recourse whatsoever. If they decide to delete videos, censor content, randomly yeet comments, reduce subscriber counts, redirect viewers of me to other videos, not send out messages on the subscribe button, etc., I have absolutely no recourse whatsoever. There used to be a time when if you click the subscribe button on my channel, you would get a notification whenever I uploaded a video. So because, you subscribe to the channel, that seems to indicate that you had a desire to be alerted when I made something new. Seemed natural. But then YouTube was like, yeah, but this doesn't let us steer people the way we want, so they removed that, and instead you only get a warning occasionally now. And you can increase the percentage of times you get a warning by clicking the little bell button, which is largely useless, frankly. But even then, you don't get warned about everything. This, YouTube did, unilaterally, not taking any feedback from anyone, and even if they did, they would simply just laugh and continue to do it anyways. We unironically do need some sort of digital bill of rights. We genuinely do, that protects people's abilities to engage with the internet on a predetermined basis rather than the one dictated by the constantly changing wheels of corporations. But details. So, other points though, this will hurt subscription services, absolutely, because if you're doing like a free-to-play game, for example, that means that you have a lot of installs, because it's a free-to-play game, and you don't necessarily earn a single red dime from that install. Well, Unity does, so screw you, I guess. Charity bundles, definitely. Piracy, well, so long as the pirates don't bother disabling the Unity tracker, and why would they? Yeah, every time somebody buys your game, you'll be paying for it. Oh, this is such a shit show. This is such an unironic shit show. And not to mention as well, giveaways, right? You want to give a review copy to somebody? Well, previously, that didn't cost you a dick because you wanted people to pick up your game and you had the review code. So, okay, here, little YouTuber, have a review code. Well, now you're going to be paying for that as well. To be fair, it's cents, so it doesn't really matter, but it's the principle of the thing, you know? Now, there were also people who mentioned that, I think the guy who made Rust, was this in here? No, it might have been the Twitter thread, where the guy who made Rust mentioned that if this had been in the entire lifetime of the game, it would have costed them some $400,000. Now again, in terms of a game that has been sold for years and years and has produced in all of those sales, that is going to be a relatively small figure, but that is going to be in addition to the licensing fee, of course, and bear in mind as well, not all games are sold at the US currency limit. A game that costs $30 to you and me, for example, might cost $15 to somebody in Russia, or $10 to somebody in Brazil, etc., etc. Regional prices, meaning that the flat fee of 20 cents, which sounds entirely reasonable on a game priced in dollars, well, that's going to sound a lot less reasonable if you're charging it in Peruvian bolivars or whatever, which will further confuse the thing, as the percentage slice gets drastically larger depending upon what areas you are operating in. This is just an awful idea. This is actually just an awful idea. Not to mention, it's also going to make sure that every single game is going to require an online connection to play them when you install them. Like, all of these games will have to have an online requirements now. They cannot be sold in digital format. They cannot be activated without an internet connection because you must dial home so that Unity can charge their cents from whomever made the video game. This isn't going to go over well. Hell, it already isn't going over very well at all, as not a lot of people are very happy about this. In fact, the vast majority seem to be extraordinarily angry over it, and for very good reasons. I mean, hell, even if we ignore the obvious cases of malicious abuse you could do with this, I mean, hell, ignore even a grassroots boycott thing, right? Ignore even like an actual review bomb where you pissed off a lot of people. If you manage to annoy one particularly driven and cantankerous individual, well, it wouldn't be very hard to set up a constantly running loop, for example, that simply downloads a game, installs it, runs it once, uninstalls it, downloads it, etc., etc., ad infinitum. How many times could you do this a minute, I wonder? Now, bearing in mind the limitations of download size, but something like RimWorld, for example, which is relatively small, and you've got an internet connection that gives you unlimited bandwidth on a, on a certain cost, so it doesn't really damage you all that much, if any at all. Well, a determined asshole could do some serious damage. It's just such a bad idea. Seriously, Unity, like, this is one of the worst ideas I ever come up with, and that, incidentally, is why I know it'll probably pass as well. Because all of the other companies that make engines are probably looking at this right now and thinking of the exact same stuff that I do, except when they think about it, little dollar signs pop up in their eyes. Well, there you have it. Unity has decided to set fire to the entirety of indie development. I feel like saying have a good day isn't really fitting considering the situation, but God, it's just so awful. Anyways, have a good day, and thank you very much for watching. And I hope to see you all again soon, and if you are a Unity developer, allow me to suggest literally any other alternative, at least until they too jump on what is likely to be a rather profitable bandwagon. Have a good day.